Hey everyone, it's time for another Mr. Oldenburg math video. It's going to be unedited, uncut, and not mistake free. It's going to be full of them. Let's get started. Today we talked about word problems. Like we've said, the whole entire unit. When we're reading word problems, we need to understand what we're talking about before we even get started. If we don't set the problems up right, it's not going to work. If we don't put what we have divided by how it's shared, it's not going to work. Lots of ways it's not going to work. One way it will. Organizers of an architectural tour need to set up information tables every 1/8 of a mile along a 6-mile tour. So, right off the bat, I know what I have. I have a 6-mile tour. It's better than a 3-hour tour. You get stuck and marooned on islands. I'm dividing those into eighths because in each mile, my unit rate is 1/8. I'm going to put a sign every 1/8 of a mile, okay? But I have to keep reading because there's more. Each table needs 2 signs. This is a 2-part problem, okay? You can't just have one sign where we're stopping. So, sure, first I need to figure out how many signs I'm going to need, or how many tables I'm going to need. How many tables I'm going to need. Because remember, words matter. Numbers aren't numbers or have meanings. They are numbers. Told you, there's a mistake. Numbers don't have a real value until they have a word behind it to mean something or to represent it. So this 1/8 represents the table. But I'm going to be measuring signs, because that's what the question wants to know. How many signs are going to be there? So first, I have to find the table. And then whatever I get here, this is going to tell me how many tables I have. I'll multiply that by 2, because each table has 2 signs. So when I reset up my problem, it's going to be 6. Inverse operation of division is multiplication. And the reciprocal of 1/8 is 8/1. Because remember, at first the 1/8 is saying that you have one table every 8 spots, or you have, and that means that you're going to have 8 tables in 1 mile. Lots of mistakes today, guys. Sorry. 6 times 8 is 48. So what does that 48 stand for? It stands for the amount of tables, not the signs. Now I got to take that 48 and do my second part of my problem, which is to multiply by 2. There we go. I'm going to need 96 signs. They gave us a number line. Each of these could have been 8. I would draw the lines, but I don't want to draw 96 of them. So what am I going to do? I'm going to put an 8 in between each value. So in between 0 and 1, I know that there's 8 tables. In between 1 and 2, I know that there's 8 tables. 2 and 3, 8 tables, and so on. However, remember, each of those tables has 2 signs. So what is it really? It's 8 times 2. So realistically, whoops, I just wrote 12 because I was thinking 16 in my head. So realistically, in between each of these miles, I just wrote 16 again. So what we're looking at then is in between each mile there will be a total of 16 signs. When I add them all up, you'd get 96. Okay, so on this problem, they want me to write a real-world problem that can be solved using, first, adding 24 and 36. So when I write this, you're going to see that I'm going to use parentheses. Be reminded that parentheses mean you're doing this first. All right? Anything that's outside of it doesn't matter yet. And then dividing it by 1/4. Now, I'm not going to write down all this in words because there's no fun in watching someone write words, so I'm just going to talk about it and then solve it for you. So let's say that we're having a party at school, and it's huge. It's the biggest party ever because I'm going to order 24 pizzas from Michelangelo's and 36 pizzas from Luigi's. Then I'm going to say, you know what? These kids are hungry today. Everybody's getting 2 slices. So I'm going to just divide each pie into quarters. How many slices will I have altogether? So, first step would be to add 24 and 36. You get 60. And then I'm dividing each of those 60 pies into quarters. And that should tell me how many slices I get. So I take my 60, I take the inverse operation, and I take the reciprocal of 1/4, which is 4/1, because if I cut a pie into fourths, I'm going to get 4 slices. 60 times 4, 240 slices. Not pies. Remember, the 60 represents the amount of pies. The quarter represents how I cut it up. By the way, let's also remember 240 slices equals 60 pies. All right, finally, we have 2 problems they want us to write equations to and find the answers. So Robert wants to use all the ingredients listed on this table right over here. Woo! How many half-pound packages can he make? So, what do I know? I know that this table is what I have, and I'm going to share it or break it apart into half pounds. The first thing I need to do is figure out how much of each ingredient I have. Thank God the table tells me so. Look what I noticed first. I have mixed numbers. That means I'm going to have to add some fractions. Fortunately, these fractions have common denominators already. I know a half plus a half is 1, but you know what? Let's add that in a minute. Let's write an equation of what we're going to do first, because that would be the smart thing. Have a plan of attack. I just said first I'm going to have to add everything out together, right? So I have 2.5 plus 4 plus 1.5. That's the first thing I have to do, so it's going in parentheses. I'm going to find the total. Then I said I'm going to divide that into 1/2 pound packages. Also, they said to write an equation. I wrote an expression, so throw an equal sign and throw a variable up there for good practice. So, let's get on this. 2.5. I'm going to put 1.5 there because I like to see everything that needs to be done. A half plus a half is a whole, so I'm going to take this right here and I'm just going to put 1 up there. 2 plus 1 is 3 plus 1 is 4 plus 4 is 8. I have a total of 8 pounds of food. Now I'm going to break these 8 pounds into half-pound packages. So it's 8 divided into 1/2 pound packages. 8 times 2, 16. 16 half-pound packages. Hooray. Taking a look at the next problem, Rachel uses 2/3 of a package of cornbread mix. She will use equal parts of the leftovers to make 2 batches of cornbread. What fraction of the original will she use in each batch? Big thing that you have to remember here is they're talking about the original, so you have to go back to the first part. So let's draw a picture. I love pictures. I have a package of cornbread mix. It says she used 2/3, so let me break it into thirds. It says that she has, well, if she used 2/3, that means she has 1/3 left over. Let me fill in 1/3. There I go. That's left over. Now, have I done any math yet? Yes, because thinking is also math. Have I done any computation? No. I know that it says that she's going to use equal parts, so I can divide, because it's equal, of the leftover mix to make 2 batches. So what am I really doing? I'm dividing it in half. So if I cut what's left over in half, let me draw a line there, I should be able to make those 2 batches. I have 1 batch here and 1 batch here. They want to know what fraction of the original package will she use for each batch. Well, each batch means just 1. It's a unit fraction. So 1 batch would be 1 out of the 6. And we did that all just using a model. We didn't write an equation, nothing. I love, love, love models. They tell you better than an equation. but they did ask for one, so let's give them one. The other thing is, I would have been able to do one of these steps in my head, and I'm sure you could have too, but for purposes of the lesson, we're going to show you the multi-step. Because the first thing I did in my head was it said Rachel uses 2/3 of a package of cornbread mix, right? So what did that mean? What did I have to infer or know from the beginning? I knew originally she had one package. And from that one, I had to get rid of 2/3. Because that left me at 1/3, right? Now remember, 1 could also equal, and it does equal, 3/3. Because any numerator over the same denominator is 1. So I had to do that first. And I took whatever that difference was, and I divided it by 2. So, when I go to solve this, I get 1/3 minus 2/3. I have common denominators, so I'm okay to use that. I get 1/3 left over. I have to divide that by 2 wholes. Not in half, but by 2. Now when I take the reciprocal and the inverse, I'm going to get 1/3 times 1/2, and I get 1/6. So I will use 1/6 of the original package to make a batch of cornbread. Hope you enjoyed this. Sorry for all the mistakes. Hope this helped you learn.